So in the last video, we discussed about what is actually tuple, what operations we can perform, actually what methods we can perform, the slicing concept again in tuple, how we can perform, what kind of data we can store and all. Uh, Now we are going to understand in tuple as well as in list that what kind of operations we can perform. Let me tell you what exactly I'm trying to say. Let me just comment everything from here. Hmm. So suppose I have a list here, okay? I have a list A1 where I have some values. Suppose I have 1, 2, 3, and I have 4, 5, and 6. Okay, so I have two lists are there. Now I want to use some operators here. Like suppose I'm using a plus operator or minus operator, maybe in multiplication, division, and all. Let's see what kind of, if I'm using some operation, then what going to happen with the list. Okay, what output we are going to get from there. Let's see. So I'm going to print the value of A1 as well as the type of A1 just to show you whether it is exactly a list or not. Same goes with A2 also. Okay. Now the next thing is I want to perform here. Let's first print the value. So run this code and you can see the output. So we have A1 and A2. Both are having it's A2 actually. Run this code and you can see here, so we have a list where we have 1 2 3 element, and we have A2 where we have 4 5 6 element. The next thing is, suppose I want to perform here some values like I'm using here A1 plus A2. Now pause the video and think about it, like what happened when I'm going to run this code for A1 plus A2, whether it add the values element by element or it just concatenate the value and all. Just try to find out the answer. Okay, now let's run this code and you can see the output here. If I'm using a plus, it will not do in list. It will not do any kind of addition and event wise like 1 plus 4, 2 plus 5, 3 plus 6. But it just gives me the concatenation 1, 2, 3, and 4, 5, 6. Now, the next thing is what will happen if I'm using here. Let's copy it. In place of plus, I'm using a minus. Now, what will happen? Let's see. So run this code and you can see the output here, and you can see unsupported operand type for list. So in list, we can't use minus operator. What about multiplication? So as you can see, for minus it is saying unsupported. That means list object does not support minus operator. Run this code once again. Now you can see this time we are getting different output here, like different kind of error here. At that time we are getting unsupported operand time, but this time it is saying can't multiply sequence by non-integer of type list. That means it is supported, no? But we are using it wrongly. In place of that, if I'm using here any, no, at that time I'm using a non-integer value. This time I'm using an integer value. Suppose now what will happen? Now, what is the meaning of A1 cross 3? The meaning is like this. A1 plus A1 plus A1 is nothing but 3A1, or you can say A1 cross 3. That's the same thing, no? That means 3-time concatenation of this data, of this A1. That means 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 3 times. Run this code and you can see the output. Concatenation again for this multiplication. What will happen if I'm using here division? Okay, so this time you can see the answer is again unsupported operator. Unsupported means we can't use this particular symbol, this particular operator in list. Okay, so we can't use minus and division, but we can use plus and multiplication in list. What about for tuple now? So again, I'm just converting it into a tuple. It's very easy. We can just change the bracket and we can directly change it. Or let me just copy and paste it. That's even more easy for us. Okay. Let's just run this code. And you can see all these are now tuple. Let's see if I'm doing it like this. I'm using a plus operator. And you can see here the same kind of output I'm getting here. Concatenation, but in tuple. Now you can say, but tuple is immutable, no? How it is changing the value? So it is because of we are, if you're using a plus b, no, it is not changing anything in a1 or a2. It creates a separate tuple for that. So we can do this. What about for minus operator in tuple? So unsupported. Like the same thing goes here also. Multiplication, you can see here, can't multiply with non-integer. Like we can only multiply it with non-integer. So I'm using here 2, and you can see it concatenates the value over 2 times. Okay, it's just like the operations are same as list here also. And if I'm using here division operator, you can see it is also not supported. So this kind of thing you can do here. I hope this part is clear. What kind of operators we can use? One more thing in tuple, suppose if I'm doing it like this, we can create a tuple like this also by using this constructor. So I'm using here a is equal to tuple constructor I'm using, and I'm using here one iterable we can use here, like collection of value 8 abc 67 suppose, and let me just print the value of a and the type of a. You can see, and you can see here we can create a tuple like this also. This is also a way to create a tuple. What if instead of using a round bracket, what will happen if I'm using the uh, like see, it also makes the same thing. Why? Because here we can use one object, so we are using it, is just acts as a bracket only. There is no need of any, it is not specializing the tuple or list here. It defines by this tuple object, like the tuple constructor. So we can use any of the bracket here. What will happen if I'm using the curly bracket? Let's see. So run this code and you can see the output here. Then also it works fine. So any of the bracket you can use, there is no need to worry about that. Any bracket you can use to make things in a box, you can say, and then it converts into a tuple. Okay, so this is also a way to create a tuple in Python. Okay, now one more thing I want to tell you, that inside a tuple, no, we can't store only single value. Okay, so in tuple, it's just like, suppose I have a list here, I have L here, okay, in which I'm storing here 2. Let me print the value of L and the type of L. See, so run this code and you can see it is from a list type. But suppose I'm converting this bracket into a, let me create one more. Okay, let me just copy it everything, Control C, and V. Instead of L, I'm using here T, and I'm converting it into a tuple. Okay, T and T. Run this code. You can see the difference actually. You can see here it acts as a list, but you can see here in tuple we can't see. Here I'm creating a tuple here with a single value, but you can see it converts into integer type of data, not in tuple, but not goes with list here. List creates the value as a list, but it is not creating the value as a tuple. It creates as an integer. Why? Because in tuple we can't store a single value. Okay, but there's a trick for that. If you want to create a tuple by using a single value, you can use a comma here. Now run this code once again, you can see the difference. See. Okay, so if you just want to create, if you just want to store a single value in tuple, you can use a comma for that. Okay, so this is a simple trick. I hope as of now things are clear how we can work on list and tuple. I hope it is clear. In the next video, we'll understand how actually actually we can work with a dictionary in Python. Thank you, everyone.